Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. Now in this video we're going to talk about the findings of from Frank Chester in regards to his geometry he created or brought through to humanity, because we're all being channeled, right, and channeled with information and wisdom that needs to be brought in for a particular reason. And his baby was the Chestahedron geometry, which I have here, right? So I've actually got a couple of Chestahedrons. Okay, and this is a geometry I used to use a lot more with intent. It's a geometry I've always had a great connection with. The first time I saw it, I thought, well, this is a special geometry. And the more information I got into it, realized that it was the geometry of the human heart. And we're going to talk about the findings that Frank Chester found in regards to this geometry and connected with the human heart. And then what we're going to do after that is talk about some of the intuition or the information that's coming through to me lately in regards to what the heart really represents and what it symbolizes. Very interesting stuff. So let's get into some of the findings that Frank Chester found with this geometry and with the human heart in regards to that. So he found that the heptahedron, because he calls it hepta because hepta is 7, right? So there's 7, it's a 7-sided form, right? Chestahedron. That the heptahedron fits inside a cube with its axis at 36 degrees. So he found that this fit within a cube when it was on at a 36-degree angle. There was no other way of doing it. Now, the angle of 36 degrees was noteworthy of Mr. Chester because he remembered that the human heart sits at that particular angle inside of a person's chest, exactly 36 degrees. Now, he mentions that there's been various theories that have been presented to why the heart sits at that angle, but there's none that fully explain it. There's no validity to that or anything to back it up that's satisfactory. Now, he questioned, does it have anything to do with the Earth's tilt? Obviously, the Earth's on a tilt, but he found that the Earth's tilt was at 23 degrees, so no connection to 36 degrees. So unlikely it was to do with the Earth's tilt. Now, one of the things he then did was dip the edges of a model only of the Chestahedron into a soapy liquid. Okay, and we know that when we dip something into a soapy liquid, it creates a film. That's actually a tensor. That's a symbolism of a tensor field. And then he blew air into it. Okay, so he created this soapy liquid from the model of geometry of the Chestahedron, then blew air into it through a straw to make a bubble, right, to inflate it out. Now, this process rounds all the lines and the corners and the surfaces of the geometry to make the shape organic. Now, what he did was he compared his rounded 7-sided shape with a drawing he found on the internet in regards to left and right ventricles of the heart. And the right ventricle is what fits around the left ventricle, and he found that the shape was the same. Interestingly enough. So there was already that connection or that relevance between this form and the human heart, or the physical aspect of the human heart. Now, okay, he investigated this more. Okay, so Frank Chester, had the idea of putting his rounded 7-sided shape on its axis in a vortex generator. Okay, so now all of a sudden we're thinking about vortexes. Okay, the vortex is the universal geometry of flow. Okay, we look at the way that streams of water or river flows, and water's clean when it's got a flow to it, but more important, that factor about the flow is that's creating a vortex. It keeps it clean with centripetal and centrifugal forces. Okay, anyway, let's carry on. So he by putting his rounded 7-sided shape, the Chestahedron, on its axis in a vortex generator, a tank of spinning water. Okay, now if he put the shape in straight down, the original vortex is undisturbed. Okay, so when he put it down like that, okay, it was undisturbed, the original vortex. But when he put the shape in at the angle of 36 degrees, just like the human heart, and it keeps it spinning with its electric joule, the shape of the first swirl of water is then changed. Now it forms a sort of pocket on the side, okay? And when Frank Chester made a model of what he saw with this interaction, when he angled it on 36 degrees, just like the human heart, he cut a cross-section of that model, and sure enough, it looked exactly the same as a dissected human heart. Okay? Incredible, isn't it? Now, he was inspired by a number of other people's too. You know, like for example, you know, me going out looking at Frank Chester's work, okay, it's, you know, we're standing on the shoulder of giants here, and he had people that he looked up to too, and one of them was Rudolph Steiner, okay, and very, very wise, very intuitive, channeled person that Rudolph Steiner was. He was inspired by a drawing made by Rudolph Steiner, and Frank Chester has followed the path of curiosity and experimentation until it led to a 3D demonstration of the formative forces at work, creating the asymmetrical shape of flesh that is the human heart. So we're talking about the physical form, right? But when we talk about the vortex, we're starting to talk about the energy form, okay? So we'll keep working on this. The manifest implication that the formative forces that actually build the flesh of the heart are engaged as swirl, okay, so vortex, okay, contained in shape and direction by the geometric form, okay? So we're starting to get into geometry. The heart, and this is what he found, the heart is not a pump, okay? So when we think of it scientifically, we're always told, hey, the heart is the pump that pumps the blood around your body, right? Okay? So what we do is we scrap that idea, that theory out, and we embrace this. So instead, the heart is a streaming device, okay? And in the left ventricle, the spin of fluid is captured and toured back on itself, so creating a vortex, right? In this way, the heart acts as a brake. The prime reason for this braking is balance. The heart is a balancing organ. Okay? Okay? Now, the idea that the heart is a pump has dominated medicine for centuries, okay? Yet at the apex of the left ventricle of the heart, the bottom point, the tissue is paper thin, and it's not strong enough to enclose fluid under pressure. With the vortex model, okay, so using that as the model, for understanding the motion of blood within the heart, because we've got to think of the bloodstream just like the streaming of water on this planet. For understanding the motion of blood within the heart, is one can see how this part of the heart never receives dangerous pressure, which it would if the heart was indeed a pump. Other researchers have been able to show with cameras that the blood courses through the blood vessels of the human embryo before the heart is even formed. So there's a pulsing sensation of the blood through the vessels in the human embryo before even the heart is formed. So it's doing that without the heart. So therefore, why that shows no validation to the heart being a pump. Okay? Now, something else is moving the blood, of course. So this is another reason why Frank Chester believed that the heart is not a pump. Now, he has found that the heart is a streaming organ that is itself forming or formed by reversing and swirling streams, so a vortex. The blood enters the left ventricle in a clockwise spiral by the time it moves out of the left ventricle. It is spinning into counterwise motion. Okay, so the heart is not going like that. It's going like that. It's a slight rotation, right? There's a vortex happening there. Okay? It reverses direction inside of the left chamber. This thought is of interest to me because it is my practice to bring my awareness to the space that is my heart as a meditative practice. Okay, and this is connecting to what we're going to talk about later in regards to what I've found is that the heart, or the energy that creates the manifestation of the physical heart, is essential in regards to intuition. Okay, anyway, we'll get to that. When I align my kinesiastic awareness, a hard word to say, of my heart space with these new images of how my physical heart works. So we're looking at the heart as an energy behind it now. I feel something new about it. Okay, Chester says there is a moment at the midpoint of the reversing of flow where the blood actually pauses, no motion whatsoever. I wonder if that moment is the essential meaning of my meditation. What if my heart is a bell, okay, and the still point is the ringing of that bell, okay? So that's when we talk about a bell, what does it give off? Sound, frequency, right? Okay. So if we go back to the edges only model of the Chestahedron and spin it on its axis, the shape that is displayed through the motion is a bell. Okay, so if I go like that, you can kind of see it. If I just go like that, you can see the formation of a bell, right? A shape of a bell there happening. And obviously it's more clearer if I be able to get more of a rate of speed going. But when you rotate it, so vortex, right? The Chestahedron, the geometry of a bell is formed. Now again, we'll get to, actually we'll mention it now. Might have heard of ancient, Nazi, the Germans, were creating anti-gravity craft that they deemed the bell. Okay, anti-gravity, levitational. Okay, but we'll get to that. Rudolph Steiner reported that the evolving soul, okay, or really more accurate now as source, before it became living matter as you or me, or it's is apparent to the inner eye as the shape of a downward opening bell. Very interesting. Okay, bell, levity. Okay, just keep that in mind, those two connections. So let's look at what I have found, okay, in regards to what I've been channeled with information, in regards to connection to that. A lot of this information's come through, and I've researched this stuff in regards to Frank Chester. I've known about Frank Chester, I've known about the Chestahedron for a good 2 or 3 years now, and I've actually done videos on it before, but I think we're going to take it to an even bigger place here, or a greater place, of knowing and understanding of what the heart is. So, okay, rotation. It's to do with vortex, okay? Equals vortex, right? Now, the Chestahedron creates the bell. As I said, if you spin it, you see the bell formation, which is levity, or levitational forces being created. So the heart is a physical manifestation of a vortex, not a pump, okay? So when we look at physical ailments of the heart, okay, where somebody, say, has a heart attack, okay, which is what medicine and science would say, because the heart was deprived oxygen, blood flow, and therefore oxygen to the heart, and part of the heart tissue died. Let's look at it in this way, that the vortexing flow reaching towards the heart was disturbed on an energy level, which then manifested in the heart degenerating, and therefore heart tissue dying. So look at it in that way. That's being more specific and more accurate about what actually is happening. Now, what about congestive heart failure, where the heart gets flabby? As I've always said, the heart's a muscle, okay? And it's the most important muscle we have. Don't worry about going to the gym and working on your biceps and so on. The heart's the most important one, okay? So, congestive heart failure is when the heart weakens and then the body accumulates fluid, right? So, congestive heart failure is the manifestation of the heart not being able to be a vortex. Okay? So you can understand the connection of the dots connecting now. Arrhythmias, okay, where the rhythm of the heart is disturbed. Let's look at atrial fibrillation, which is AF. The heart doesn't have sinus rhythm anymore, right? It's not do-do, 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 do-do. It actually shivers and shakes. So, as I say, it's not just It's there's a rotation happening in the heart. Okay, so when it's shaking like that, it's lost its capability to manifest the vortexing nature of the heart. Okay, okay. So when we look at the blood running through the body in regards to the blood vessels, the smooth muscle tissue which makes up your cardiovascular system, that blood in regards to coagulation needs that vortex running through it to keep the blood thin. So when we look at thick blood, inflamed blood, it's because it's losing its vortex nature to it, the flow of life which is energetic at its origin. Okay. Now let's look at behind the human heart, the physical heart, the energy that goes into creating the physical heart, the manifestation of it on a physical level. Remember, we've got so many levels of us. The superficial level, what you're seeing here is this physical level, right? But we can go an emotional level and so on, and all the way down to the vortex, the quantum aspect of us, right? So all the quantum aspects, the emotional aspects, all these aspects are going into then manifesting into this interface of what we call the physical form, right? So this heart here, which a physical heart is we call it the sacred heart space. The sacred heart space is vital for, as they were talking about before in regards to meditation, is intuition. Okay, where once we get heart-centered, because meditation is all about a practice of control. Okay, how many times do they use the breath to try and establish your awareness and your consciousness back to self, within self, not being distracted out there, but bringing it back here, and more importantly, consciousness into here, into this heart space, not here. They'll quite often say we're trying to silence the mind, but do you know how you silence the mind? Not focusing on the mind, but bringing your focus into here, because your consciousness goes here instead of staying here and being too analytical. Okay, so within this space here, if we bring our consciousness into that heart space, the sacred heart space, there is a universe within you through that space, which we call a gateway, which you could call a portal or a stargate, that goes through to the higher perspectives of you, which we call higher selves, and where you originally come from, which is your source. Okay? That's why when we channel into the space and keep our consciousness in the now, in the moment, our intuition just elevates big time. That channel of information, that wisdom that you've always been looking for, that's always been within you, can then be connected to you. Okay? We call that the Ascension Gateway. Okay? So that Ascension Gateway, when we stand in that heart space, then creates that field within you and around you that doesn't matter what comes into that field, it automatically sends to a higher plane of existence. Okay? And that's why I always mention to people that feel like they're being attacked by low vibrational entities, waywards, ghosts, negative energies. We need it's for us to remove that aspect or remove that problem. We need to be in the heart space, because if we can channel that Ascension Gateway through that heart space, then we create a field where those low vibrational entities do not want to come in within your field, because they know they will ascend to a higher vibration, which they don't want to do. They're interested in your suffering, right? Okay, so let's get back on track. So the bell, okay, which is created through rotation of the Chestahedron, the geometry of the heart, creates levitational energies. Now the Ascension Gateway, again, this energetic connection through the heart, right, your sacred heart, is made by levitational forces and a few other energies as well, but they're all about ascending and elevating your vibration into another dimension, density, plane of existence. Okay? That's the vital importance of it. So if there's an issue with that, and where consciousness is up here too much, and therefore this gets blocked off, that's going to create an issue within the human heart and the human manifestation of how your blood and your cardiovascular system will function. Okay? For example, let's say you go to your general practitioner or your doctor, get your blood pressure taken, and they may see that your blood pressure is high. What's the immediate question? They'll go, are you stressed out at the moment? Are you stressed? Okay. Now, how is stress created? When our focus, our consciousness, is dragged to a focus out there, the busyness of life, the distraction of life, right? All the things that they tell you is important in life, the focuses that you need to create, is creating stress on your body because your consciousness is being dragged by the mind out of control instead of being in the heart space. So all of a sudden, all those things manifest into stress, and therefore your coagulation or your thickness of your blood thickens because the vortexing nature is being shut off from the sacred heart coming into the physical heart and the blood in your cardiovascular system. You lose that vortexing function of your bloodstream, and your blood manifests into being thick blood. The intelligence of your body has to push the blood more because it needs to get that blood moving, and hence that increases your blood pressure. It's as simple as that. Okay? So, that's really in regards to what's happening in regards to the cardiovascular system. The bloodstream, the issues in regards to our bloodstream, the thickness and thinness of the blood, clot formation, congestive heart failure, arrhythmias, all comes down to this. All comes down to it. And not only the cardiovascular system, a number of areas of your body too. So, the Chestahedron, which is a geometry, and geometries facilitate energy, right? Another thing I will tell you about just geometries in general, okay, they can facilitate an energy through it when we use our intent, right? But just sitting them down next to you, they will talk to you. Because you know what? They have a consciousness. Okay? In this room here, I've got geometry all around me. And the amazing downloads of information, intuition that comes through to me is incredible. It just blows my mind every day. I love my job. I love this. I can't wait every day to see what information comes through. These things are talking to me. Okay, I know that. And the Chestahedron is a consciousness that ascends with love. Do you know what else ascends with love? You and me. We ascend. We're supposed to sustain ourselves from love. Not fear. Fear lowers our vibration. When we're stuck up here, we're sustained by fear, and it lowers our vibration. It creates degeneration in the body. Okay, we're sustained by the same sustenance that this consciousness holds. Pretty cool. I think that's essentially all I really want to talk about in regards to this. I hope you've really enjoyed this video. This, as you can tell with the way that I'm discussing it, it's just mind-blowing for me as well. It's unbelievable information. And, you know, I've got a background of being in the medical system. Okay, I worked in a hospital, and I would never have figured out this through being there. Because, again, it's a closed-minded aspect. They tell you what's happening in regards to textbooks and stuff like that. But, you know, when it comes to nitty-gritty, they can't give you the explanation, the understanding of why it's like that. And we need to find that through our consciousness and through intuition. And we get the real answers. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment below if you've got any questions about it. And if you've got any issues in regards to cardiovascular systems, like high blood pressure, coagulation problems where you get thick blood, or you've had heart attack, or issues with congestive heart failure, or anything of that nature, please book an appointment with me at trulyholistic.net, and we can help you with this. We can help you with a number of things, including intuition. If you want to have greater intuition and connecting to a higher power, dowsing and all those sorts of things, exactly the same thing applies. We can help you in regards to this. Just book an appointment and we can get it going for you. Otherwise, next time, bye.